Let's talk about the Pseudo Child Trope. This special little trope largely only appears in slow burn romances involving two people who are sometimes children themselves, and that are usually in the fledgling stages of romance. Maybe even so fledgling that the duo hasn't even realized that they have feelings for each other yet. And what better way to light that spark of romance than to skip all the foreplay and slap them with a kid? How romantic. This trope is distinct from any sort of child from the future trope in that this child is unlikely to be biologically related to either of its would-be parents. In most instances, this trope is invoked through magical means. One day you could be fighting through hordes of monsters with your trusty rival at your side when you stumble upon a small child amongst the carnage that clings to both of you, calling you their parents, and saying they don't have any memories. Or maybe you're just existing, taking a walk with your soon-to-be co-parent when a toddler literally appears from the aether in front of you calling you mommy and daddy. Heck, you don't even have to discover the kid with anyone else. You could just be chilling all on your own when you happen across the kid, and they imprint on you. And then you get to enjoy finding out who Mama is with the rest of the audience. This instance usually only happens in harem series to help stir the plot and add some drama, especially if the person this baby decides is their mama is someone who feels animosity towards the protagonist. In the instance that this trope is being used in a romance featuring two kids, neither of those kids will have parents of their own, at least not in any meaningful capacity. Even if the parents aren't dead, they're still probably not around, because what reasonable person will let two kids raise another child? Which means these kids now get to be the parents that they never had. The purpose of this trope is ultimately to get the gears of romance turning in our characters' heads and hearts, and step them into the responsibilities of parenthood together, maybe leading them to see each other in a different light, or even to think, hey, maybe this isn't so bad. And it lets the author force situations upon the characters that they ordinarily wouldn't have to deal with until years after jacking out together. One thing is for certain, every time the work cuts back to the child, it'll be trying to pull at your heartstrings and get you to say, "Aw, aren't they so precious together?" Whether or not it's successful will ultimately depend on you. Personally, I find the trope can be very hit or miss. For me, it largely depends on the two would-be parents' chemistry together and whether or not the child character actually has, well, any character and adds to that mix. If they have desires and personalities of their own, it can add an interesting spice. But if they're just thrown into the mix and have as much personality as stale bread, and in the story they're more or less just being treated as an accessory for the creator's strip teasing, then why bother? I think this is one of those tropes that, if done well, it can endear the audience even more to the characters in the ship, and if it's done poorly, it can really turn people off the ship or the characters altogether. Definitely a careful line to walk. Either way, you should be careful not to grow too attached to this little bundle of joy, because most likely they're not going to be around forever. Once their purpose in the story is settled, the author will toss the baby out with the bathwater. Most likely. Whether the kid decides to make the ultimate sacrifice to protect their parents' lives from the bad guys, or simply whatever magic brought them into being has run its course and their time is up, expect a tearful farewell with the now former parents who will vow either that this won't be the end and that they'll be together as a family again one day, or that they will vow never to forget their time together. Usually it's safe to assume that whichever two characters have the pseudo child together are the endgame for the series, but that's not always the case. Here's looking at you, popular series I won't name for spoiler reasons. Really let us down there. What are your thoughts on this trope? Are you a fan? Do you hate it? Please let me know in the comments below.